Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to take a look at a trailer that has come out for a new Netflix special that is going to be hitting the platform on May 11th, and that is Have a Good Trip. Um, now, I watched the trailer for this, and it's one of those things. I'm not going to do what I normally do with it. The other thing is it's a documentary, so I'm not going to do what I normally do with film trailers and kind of break it down bit by bit and go through the whole thing. I'm just going to kind of talk about the concept because the concept of this is amusing to me. And that's really the main reason why I'm making a video about it. Also, I may be watching this stoned out of my mind. But the thing is that the documentary itself feels more like a comedy special because most of the people that are in it are actually comedians. There's a few other actors and musicians and stuff that are sprinkled in. Maybe the reason why it comes off as a comedy to me is because most of it is comedians explaining their experiences. But the idea is that there's all these famous people and they're explaining their experiences while tripping on psychedelic drugs. Um, it is amusing to hear kind of stories about that from some people because it's very different for everybody. So it's not so you're going to get so many wacky, insane, crazy stories. And the other thing is that they have paired it, or at least it appears that they paired it with both a few live action, although I'm not sure if some of those may have been ripped from the Nick Kroll show and Workaholics, but there are some live action little skits that are in there, and a lot of them, and then the other ones, the majority of it are animated skits. Um, or at least again from what we can tell based on the trailer. Now, the animated skits remind me an awful lot of, well, maybe a couple of shows, but the one specifically that it struck me as immediately was Shorty's Watching Shorties. Now, if anybody remembers that show, it was on Comedy Central probably sometime in the mid 2000s. And basically, the idea of the show was there were these two babies that were voiced by stand up comedians. I can't remember there was one of them that I know is voiced, but I can't think of the name, and I forget who the other one was. But they were two babies, and basically the idea was they would turn on the television, and it would be all these wacky little cartoons that would be on, and then it would be kind of an amalgam. So you'd have like three or four cartoons in an episode. It was like a half-hour episode. They were shorts, but the way that the cartoons were laid out is that it was stand-up comedians, a portion of their set, like from a stand-up special, and that was just animated and put on screen. And I think that idea is brilliant because um, the idea with stand-up comedy is you're hearing a joke and stuff like that, but like, some jokes are kind of straightforward. Knock knock, who's there? Fuck you. It's pretty. Sometimes it's straightforward, but sometimes there's a lot of description involved in that and stuff like that. Especially guys that do, a lot of like long-form jokes, like story jokes. Where they tell a story and there's a bunch of humorous little jokes that are mixed into it, but they take the set. I remember they had a bunch of comedians that they did it with. They did it with Dennis Leary. Pretty sure they did it with Dave Attell and Nick Offerman and a few other people. Um, but this reminds me almost exactly of that, except it's not a stand-up set. It's just these people talking about their drug experiences. And again, it looks extremely amusing. The guy who made it very, very clearly does not take the he's taking the subject as comedically as possible, or at least it appears so. Now, I don't know if the documentary is because again, this doesn't really feel. The trailer doesn't make it feel like a documentary. They make it feel like a comedy show. Again, like a drunk history or a Shorty's Watching Shorties or something like that. Um, it gives you those vibes, but if it's a documentary, I'm assuming it has some kind of actual information on it on what happens to you when you take psychedelic drugs. So I'm assuming that's going to be sprinkled in too, even though that's really not showcased in the trailer at all, except at the very beginning where you have a guy who's dressed up as a scientist. I don't know if that's the director or not, and he is explaining those. So this is what happens to your brain when you're tripping, and then it immediately cuts to all the vignettes with the celebrities. And like I said, most of them are comedians. You got Sarah Silverman on there, Nick Kroll, a few other mostly stand-up guys. You have a few musicians. Sting is on there at the very beginning. Um, there's a rapper in there too, and honestly, the rapper has the most hilarious one where he said that his dick shot rainbows and it had a sound effect. Um, so that was pretty hilarious. But the thing is that this type of a program is something that I haven't really seen a whole lot of. Again, outside of Drunk History, Drunk History is kind of just something that Comedy Central has been, nurturing for a long time. Because they know that basically it's that and South Park and everybody else, and there's nothing else on the platform. Um, Speaking of that, there's actually a lot of Comedy Central alumni in this. Again, if the Workaholics guys are actually in it, if the stuff in the trailer isn't just a clip from the show, so you have a fair amount of funny people in it. The trailer doesn't really give away too much. You go into some of the stuff, but again, these stories I would assume are somewhere along like the 10 to 15 minute mark for each of them. I mean, I'd expect this to be between an hour and a half, maybe an hour and a half on the strong end. So you're gonna have these little stories from all these people, all these little vignettes and stuff like that are gonna happen. So I don't think it's going to get too old, and it seems like the animation style for the various vignettes changes as you go through as well. Because when they do the first one with Sting, they show that it's kind of like a Funko Pop type of look, where very small body, very large head, over accentuated eyes. And then they go to another animation style, and they go into there's this one in a car, but it looks very much like a more contemporary, a little bit kind of disproportionate with the hair and stuff. Sarah Silverman does one where it looks kind of like a goofy little, like I'm trying to think of one, like it kind of like a lower budgeted version of like the Critic, that type of animation. They I think they got different studios to do this, and if they didn't get different studios, I think maybe they just got somebody that was very studio that was very multi-talented and could do various ones of these vignettes, and that would make kind of sense. But either way, the trailer showcases that, which I liked, and the humor, like I said, the humor elements. So outside of that, there's really not too much to talk about this. Oh yeah, and Ben Stiller has one at the very end, which is goddamn hilarious. But after that, there's really not too much to dissect about this. Again, it's just, it's fairly straightforward in the subject matter. So there's nothing really going on there. But, as usual, I will link the trailer in the description below if you would like to watch it. And I want to know what you think. Do you think this is amusing? Does this remind you of any, older type of shows that used to be on? Again, like a Shorties Watching Shorties or a Drunk History or something like that after viewing the trailer. Or, do you not have Netflix? Do you don't care or whatever? Put your thoughts in the comments below. I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you?